technological level is Israel. And so I was keen to have representation from Israel today. And Rinette Ben-Nun is going to speak to us now about work that she is doing for the Ministry of Construction and Housing in Israel. So thank you for your patience, Rinette, and if we could go to you next. Thank you.
Hello, hello, and good afternoon. I feel very lucky to take part in this interesting and important event. My name is Rinette Ben-Nun. I'm a social planner. I have managed and promote the process of age-friendly cities for the last 10 years. And from this experience, I learned that although the social and service domain get a permanent place in the municipality system, the physical domain of housing, open public spaces, and building are left behind. They are not contained in the routine work plans, in the work of the relevant rules in the municipality, a city engineer and public and private architect. For this reason, I initiate with the chief architect in the Israeli Ministry of Construction and Housing, Vered Salomon Maman, and Shulamit Gertel, the city planner, an architectural planning guide for age-friendly city. The work's reason is to create a broad effect by disseminating knowledge among architects in the public and private planning. Next, please. Since the publication of age-friendly city plan, a lot of knowledge in the field of physical living environment for aging has developed. Today, there are many examples for projects, academic research about what is age-friendly living environment. Our work proposal was to study it and translate the vast international knowledge into architectural language and planning tools that will serve architects and engineers when it comes to design a multi-generational cities and neighborhoods. Next, please. Sorry. The planning guide was developed in collaboration with city planner, architect, and gerontologist in a joint study. In fact, we went through a similar process that we are taking part now, writing the international standard for multi-generation neighborhood. So we gather relevant knowledge and experience around the world and examine its implication in the local planning system. Studies on the older adults' experience in the public spaces, in the road, market, driving, walking, or shopping, and working. We study their social and functional needs and the barriers and opportunities in the physical public spaces and in the private home. And we review projects that have addressed these needs. And we try to turn it into a planning tool. Since the architectural planning guide intends to serve urban architect and planner, it will be written in a professional language, which includes instruction, accompanied by sketches, maps, and illustration. Next, please. I'm often asked, why should we plan especially for old age? Isn't everybody wants good, safe, beautiful, and interesting neighborhood? What is unique about the elderly? My answer is that unlike younger age groups, the elderly adults live in the neighborhoods throughout the day. Most of their work is concentrated in the area closer to their home. What is not there isn't available for them at all, or it's difficult for them to get it outside. Nevertheless, after saying that, we agree that there is no such a thing as a planning just for older adults. The purpose of the briefing is to integrate the needs of the elderly into all plans for the whole population. Next, please. Several concepts accompany the development of the planning guide. The first of them is the recognition in the changing connection between the person and his living environment throughout his life course. People of all ages, including the elderly, are adapting to the decrease in their healthy resources, a decrease in their mobility and motility. Elderly people are assisted by means of walking, by their caregivers, walk slower, or choosing a closer destination. In a friendly multi-generation neighborhood, the goal of the physical living environment is to enable each person to continue to maintain their daily routine and their independence throughout their life course, continue to feel belonging, continue to get to all places they need, and to be part of the social fabric. Next, please. After the learning process, we added the finding to an architectural planning guide. The guide composed of 4 domains. The first domain is the general program for multi-generation friendly neighborhood, with planning tools as mixed use, dense multi-junction, road system, or many small service centers, and more. As can see in this table, most of the planning concepts are well known. Mixed uses, walkability, and similar planning tools are not new for planners and architects. Nevertheless, we present them from the perspective of the older adults. Since walkability in old age serves different needs than young, as short walking distance, benches, comfort room along the tracks, and also for a spontaneous meeting place. I don't have time to present all the domains, but I'd like to say another word about the third domain, which is the housing. Housing options for senior citizens. Today in Israel, as in many places, and as it was represented today, in many places in the world, they are innovating models for housing, shared accommodation, new options for splitting apartment and building, a combination of standard with residential apartment building with cooperative units, and so on and more. In order to allow those to develop, they need to have a planning infrastructure. They need to be allowed in the master plan. During the work, we accompany a number of private initiatives of this type and try to offer them solutions in the outline plans. Next, please. I would like to present an example for one of our efforts to translate a social need into a planning guideline and instruction. Many older adults strive to act for themselves, for their own social need, despite their limited mobility. They create, by themselves, social meeting places on the scene between the private and the public. They are looking for a connection to the community and to the public space, but in the immediately proximity to their home. Because of mobility problem or feeling of security, moreover, they like to sit together with other familiar neighbors. In this picture, you see a kind of outdoor living rooms located at the entrance to apartment buildings. The photos are taken from 2 different neighborhoods, one very expensive and the other one poor. But it turned out that the social needs are universal. Other older adults who cannot get out from their home stay for many hours on a balcony watching out. As so, we asked the architect to give expression to this need in the planning instruction, a meeting and sitting place that allow eye contact and proximity to the residential building, the street, and the human traffic that pass through it. Next, please. This is one example for outline instruction for window or balcony in every new apartment. Our guidelines include a number of designing instructions for all new apartments that we built in Israel. So they include means to support older adults, assuming that each apartment one day will be used by older tenants. Here is a view window watching out, but we also recommend a large entrance for the toilets and bedrooms and other elements that will surely be needed when the apartment will serve elderly adults. Next, please. This is the example of instruction in the street planning for a meeting or sitting area at the entrance to building that maintain eye contact between the entrance of a building and the street, so that those sitting in the entrance of the building will see and feel the human movement on the street. Next, please. The planning system is planning many years ahead. Its work will affect the well-being of the elderly in 25 years ahead. Recently, Towers neighborhood became very attractive for the Israeli public. However, most people do not understand the problem in this type of neighborhood for older people. In this neighborhood, the person sitting on the 14th floor cannot see what is happening on the street. The distance from the entrance of the building to the street does not allow eye contact, and the number of people on the street usually is low. Today, most of the residents in this neighborhood are young families. But in 25 years or more, this neighborhood will become a trap for the elderly who won't have a reason to leave the house in the morning and will spend most of the day in a beautiful prison on the 12th floor. Next, please. This is another example for innovative solution to a need arising for the increase in the number of elderly people in the community. One of the planning challenges today is the lack of public spaces for services that until recently did not exist, such as activity centers for new retirees or clubs for Alzheimer's patients and their families. There is a need for more places and buildings for elderly to use and enjoy. Over time, young families grow older and the number of children in the neighborhood decrease, which leads to a decrease in the general population. However, at the same time, the number of old people in the neighborhood is increasing. Therefore, when planning the allocation of public spaces for a new neighborhood, it should be considered for 2 time periods. First time, when the neighborhood is young and has a lot of children and youth, and the second time, 50 to 20 years ahead, when the neighborhood will become old and many buildings will be needed for the benefit of the elderly. We therefore suggest that every new neighborhood will have 2 programs for allocation of public spaces, marked on the maps. For the first period, when the building and the public spaces will be used for kindergarten and school, and in the second period, when it becomes a day center for the elderly, clinics, volunteer clubs, and others. Next one, please. For summary, in our work process, we ask what is a multi-generation neighborhood and what are the needs of the elderly, which growing old in this multi-generation neighborhood, alongside the needs of the younger age groups. The concept that guides us is that a multi-generation neighborhood is one that allows a person to live in the same place, using the same infrastructure throughout his adult life. The physical infrastructure should allow a person to move naturally from one stage of mobility to the advanced state, slower. The older adult, the very old, and the old wants and need to continue to act, participate, and move around in their living environment, without that the physical infrastructure will be the one that limits and prevents them from continuing independent routine activity. And for that, the infrastructure should be planned in advance in a way that suits every stage of life, including the private apartment and the public spaces and the street. Thank you everyone for listening.
Rinette, I used to be a DJ back many years ago, and one thing you always looked out for was that record that came to an abrupt conclusion and gave no indication they were coming to an end. And that was the same with your presentation. I did not see that coming.
Okay.
But I thought that was fantastic. I mean, really, I'm sure, well, I know from the comments, practical suggestions, you know, actually what you're doing is incredible. Could you just tell us a little bit more about this cafe scenario? Presumably you've seen it in the flesh. How does it work? I mean, in cultural terms.
The picture that you see here is the picture that I took in the last summer between the first and the second closure in Israel. We are now in the third one, when people are not allowed to go outside, and coffee shops are, of course, are closed now. Nevertheless, you can see in the picture many older people revealing in the message that the patronistic message for older people that were by the official governmental officer, and they are going out. They are putting a mask and going out, and they try to this picture that I think that show how people older people want to be outside, to continue to be a part of the community, and they even here they maybe risk their life for it. I hope so. I hope that they didn't. But what I think is that we should help them. That we should help them. This is our job, to to help them in their effort to maintain independently and to go out. And we have to think in the planning system, have to think what should we do to help them do that. Thank you.
It's excellent. And what we need to do is to find the best way of capturing your findings, your learnings, your experience, and factoring it into our planning process, because I would say that for the most part, you're ahead of the game there. Love to spend more time talking about this, but we are running a little late. So